Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/BoomersBeingFools for you all. As per usual, I'll be narrating the post, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Dismal letter 3191. Creepy boomer loses it when asked to tone it down. Boomer story. I own a vintage store, and there is this boomer, probably mid-60s, who comes in about once a month to look at vinyl records. He rarely ever buys anything over $1, and he's always complaining about the prices that one of my vendors sells his records for. I've been tempted to ban him for the last 2 years because he won't leave people alone when they're trying to shop. If someone is in a booth that he's looking at, he'll torture them with his endless observations until they finally break free. This weekend was the final straw for me. There was a teenage girl browsing through the records when he came in. He immediately got in her personal space and told her that the records she was looking at were too expensive. He then started telling her about a new store that's opened in the next town and how their prices are so much better. I was at the counter, which is pretty close to the records, and said, "I know you're not telling someone to go somewhere else right in front of me." Of course, he tried to backpedal, but he was still bothering the girl. By this time, her mother came over to stand guard. They finally walked away and came to the counter to check out. I apologized to them and the mother expressed her gratitude that I was watching him since he was clearly making her daughter uncomfortable. When he came to check out, I told him that he was welcome to shop here, but he couldn't keep talking to other customers, especially not teenage girls. He lost it when I told him this. He kept whining that I couldn't tell him he couldn't talk to other people. Finally, I told him that nobody came here to talk to him, and he was just bothering people. He wouldn't shut up, so I just told him he wasn't welcome here anymore. He left, yelling that he was going to get the word out about how he was treated. I'm so concerned that he's going to spread the word that I don't allow creepy old men to perv on teenage girls in my store. Minus them talking to teenage girls and weirdly approaching them, which, for those of you who are female in my audience, how often did this happen to you when you were still a minor and had old men creeping on you and trying to be weirdly flirty? Anyways, besides that, it is an interesting generational gap that boomers just seem to openly just converse with everyone around them. Like, you could be at a grocery store just picking up a bottle of olive oil and some boomer guy will just be like, "That was my wife's favorite bottle of olive oil. Yeah, Nancy would have been really happy to see you grabbing that, but she's in North Dakota, fucking Dave." It's just kind of like, all right, thanks for that, I guess. I didn't ask for your life story, but here I am, now weirdly feeling guilty buying a bottle of olive oil. I don't know, that's just something that's always been interesting to me, is that older generations seem to be more inclined to enter into impromptu conversations, even if you didn't even show any interest in being in an impromptu conversation. You just kind of forced into it and have to awkwardly nod along to it and agree with them until they eventually shut up or you're able to finally escape their clutches. I also guarantee there's probably going to be a comment from someone that's like, "This video is incredibly ageist. Also, it's because you damn millennials are always on your phone." But ironically, I actually use social media less than my grandparents, and I'm a fucking content creator. The irony. Frylock McReaper. In my day. Boomer story. Took a train from Providence to New York to meet up with my family a few weeks back. Train was packed, so I grabbed a spot in the dining car, threw on some headphones, and listened to some music. Enter the boomer and his wife. He taps me on the shoulder and asks if they can sit at the table with me. I say sure, and go back to my music. 10 seconds later, he taps me again and asks if he can switch seats with me so he can sit across from his wife. I switch and put my headphones on. 2 minutes later, he taps me to move so he can go to the bathroom. 10 minutes later, he taps me to ask what they serve in the dining car. 10 more minutes, he taps me to ask where I'm going. 10 more minutes, his wife can't read the menu. Can I see what that says? At this point, I'm getting pretty annoyed. I go to put my headphones back on, and before I can, he grabs my wrist and with a shit-eating grin on his face says, "You know, in my day, it's considered rude to ignore someone when they're trying to have a conversation with you. I was just fucking talking about this. God damn." His eyes were gleaming like he just delivered a real "gotcha" to me. I locked him dead on the face and just said, "In my day, people can take a fucking hint when someone doesn't want to talk to you." Got up and left. Spent the next half hour wandering the aisles before finally finding a new seat. It was worth it. I promise I did not plan for this to literally be back-to-back like this, where boomers are just entering random conversation, but now it really does escalate the question of, why are they so prone to start random conversations with strangers? My thought process on this is just that because they don't have music or general devices to distract them from, the monotony of travel, they tend to resort to conversations because it helps pass the time. Which, I understand, sometimes a conversation's nice to have, but if someone is clearly not interested in having a conversation, why would you try to force them into it? Part of me wonders if they're just so petty and they enjoy, getting under our skin with the whole, it's rude and disrespectful to ignore a conversation, right? When we're just trying to, I don't know, listen to music or watch a video or do literally anything else instead of just waiting in silence. And the thing is with these videos of boomers being fools is the concept is not every single boomer is a bastard person, it's just there are a lot of them that have this air of entitlement to themselves and they believe they are entitled to our respect or our time or just anything that they feel they just deserve in life. And it gets under a lot of our skins. Just because you've been around here longer doesn't mean you get an all-access pass to my time. And I'm sure everyone in the audience here recognizes that not every single boomer is like this, and probably a vast majority of them are incredibly sweet people that are fun to talk to and be around. However, it's the few that make it hell for us that give boomers a bad name. Super Dark Gal. Boomer verbally abused me because I wouldn't carry and load her bags into her car. Boomer story. At my retail job, I was doing some stocking, but then I got called up to the register to help the cashier with a long line. Then I heard this boomer, we're gonna call her Karen, being rude to my cashier. Karen was rudely telling her to double bag her bags. Then she asked the cashier if she could get someone to carry all of her bags into her car. My cashier asked me if I could do it, and I said no. Karen rudely asked me why, and I explained to her that it wasn't part of my job, and our store does not offer that service. She demanded to speak to a manager, and I told her that our store manager was not in at the moment, and I'm an assistant manager and the manager on duty at the moment. She told me, "You're really not going to do your job?" I explained again that it wasn't part of my job because we do not have that kind of service at our store. Then she demanded our store's manager's name, address, and phone number. I told her no, and that I would not give out personal info. She then claimed that she didn't say that and told me that she wanted the name, phone number, and address of our store. I refused to give it to her because she started calling me a fucking bitch. She demanded that I get a piece of paper and a pen and write down her name and phone number and give it to my store manager. Instead, I gave the pen and paper to her, but she shoved it towards me and said it was my job to write it down, not hers. I wanted to cancel her total, but my cashier said no. She wanted her to finish her purchase and get out. Karen then said that I shouldn't cancel her total because I would never get a customer spending as much money as she is. Then she started cussing me out and told me to get out of her face, even though I was 8 feet away from her, all while she was giving me her middle fingers. She went on to tell me that I would never amount to anything in life, and I would always be an assistant manager and never a real manager. Her purchase was complete and she tried to convince customers to report me to corporate, but customers said that she was the one who acted out of line. When customers confronted her, she denied cussing me out and told them she never did that, even though I recorded some of the incident on my phone. Her excuse for her behavior was that her husband was in cardiac arrest and she was having a bad day. She tried pulling a Carol and Brian on me and was yelling for the police, claiming I was harassing her when she realized I was recording her. I sent the store manager the video and I got a picture of her car and the plate numbers. Some customers gave me their info so the store manager could call them and they could tell her what they witnessed. So there is a part 2 to this, and before we get to it, I do just want to point out the absurdity of her asking for the manager's home address and then when called out on it being like, "No, I want the store's address and phone number." Like, ma'am, you can just Google that and the store address isn't like private information, it's literally on the front of the building. And then when that was refused, out of 100% understandable pettiness by the way, she wanted them to write down her phone number, address, and all the other personal contact information. Like, why would you want someone else to write that down? I feel like there's more room for clerical errors and more room for fuck-ups if you were to write down someone else's information. Also, my guess would be for the reason why OP isn't assisting with unloading the bags into her car, which I do know some grocery stores will assist with that, My guess would be is they don't want to take the liability for that, so they have just left it entirely up to the customer. Anyways, now that I got that off my mind, let's move on to part 2 of this story. Posted once again by Super Dark Gal. Boomer who verbally abused me came back. Boomer story. 3 days ago, I had a boomer/Karen demanding I walk with her to her car and load her bags up into her car for her. I explained to her that we do not provide that service at our store, and she went off and cussed me out and told me that I would never amount to anything in life, and that I would always be an assistant manager and not a real manager. Well, I was working at a different location and she came in, and I refused to serve her. She begged and begged me to serve her, claiming she didn't do anything to me. But I reminded her how she treated me that day. She went on and on about how she did treat me horribly that day, but she was having a bad day, and her husband was in the hospital, and regardless, I should serve her. I told her no. She crossed her arms and refused to move aside or leave and demanded that I call the police for her. She told me that she was best friends with the police and that they would arrest me for not serving her. I laughed at her because I knew that was not going to happen. She asked me if I was going to pass up the opportunity to get a total of $100 from her. And I said yes. I told her that we get customers every single day spending up to $100. She then asked me to see an employee card, which I do not have. She believed that all retail employees had a special card with all of our info on it, and she wanted to see mine. I chuckled and told her that we don't get employee cards. She then demanded my full name and my phone number. She said she was going to make sure I got fired and never got a job ever again. I told her no. She then demanded to see the store manager, but he wasn't there, so she demanded that I get her another worker to serve her. My cashier was outside on her break having a cigarette, and I told her that we were not going to serve her. She went outside to harass my cashier, and she was trying to convince her to serve her. My cashier told her no. She told my cashier that she apparently filed a police report against me from the other time she was in our store. She came back in, standing by her cart, and I was serving another customer. She started to cry. White woman tears. And was telling the customer that she did nothing wrong, and she was just a poor old innocent lady that I refused to help for no reason. I told her that she wasn't innocent and explained how she treated me, and the customer agreed with me and said that I had every right not to serve her. At that point, I was starting to realize she wasn't going to leave, so I called 911. But as soon as she saw me on the phone explaining to the dispatcher what was happening, she left. I was surprised she left. I thought she would want to stay and see her friends, aka the police. Sorry, ma'am, there's only one person who controls the police, and that's Mr. Nimbus. And that's probably a reference that went over a lot of people's heads, except for my male audience. You guys probably got that one. Also, one of my favorite, trends with people who are either late Gen X or boomers is they're always like, give me your phone number and name so I can ruin your life. It's like, why the fuck would I do that, dude? You just admitted you only want my information so you can make my life hell. Why would I give that to you? I also do find it kind of somewhat uncomfy that they're always asking for your address because I just know they're gonna fucking post that shit on Facebook and try to make your life hell in so many ways. So, by the way, to anyone who's in retail, if a customer asks for home address and is trying to bully it out of you, do not give it to them. They will only use it maliciously. This is mostly going to anyone who might be younger than 18 and just now entering the service industry and may not know how to fully deal with customers like this because they do fucking exist and they are just awful to deal with. Also, gotta love that. Do you have any other customers that are gonna spend $100? Man, that's like a basic grocery run nowadays. It's kind of hard not to spend over $100 getting a week's worth of food. Are you joking? King of, I don't know. Boomer stiffed an 11-year-old out of $40 in 2 hours of work. I'm in the Midwest, which has been hit with a ton of snow. My son, 11, wanted to earn extra cash by shoveling snow. Very bootstraps of him, right? Somehow, that go-getter attitude the boomers miss so much went unnoticed. He went to this boomer lady's house on the street behind us. He asked for $40 to shovel the driveway. She said she'd pay him $35. I knew then and there she was trouble. Nickel and diming a kid out there just trying to earn a buck? Come on. My wife convinced me to have a little faith. After all, my parents are boomers and are both pretty cool. A little out of touch sometimes, but always willing to learn and reevaluate opinions. My boy worked his ass off in the sub-freezing cold, shoveling 8-ish inches of wet, heavy snow. And when he was almost done, suddenly Boomer Karen appeared telling him he didn't do a good enough job and she wasn't gonna pay. He came home with tears literally frozen to his cheeks. After work, I went over there and said she can either pay him something for the work he did, or I would put the snow back. She thought I was bluffing. I covered about 30% of what my son took off before she realized I wasn't going to stop and she called the cops. So I called her and walked home. I don't feel better, but I know she feels worse, so that's good enough. This could potentially become attempted murder, so I'm not directly recommending it. It's more of just evil ideas. At nighttime, just get a bucket, like a 5-gallon bucket of water, and just dump it down the top of her driveway. And just let gravity do the rest of the work as it freezes. Don't do that, because you could end up actually hurting someone very badly, but it's just an idea that, could really make things, slip and slidey. Now, sometimes, to my absolute dismay, Reddit can actually sometimes be clever and more petty than me. So, Reasonable N7361 comments, can you find out what church she goes to? Telling that story to people at her church will make her hate you for life, and she will never get over it. It'll become the thing that people at church know about her. Edit, the folks suggesting next door are smarter than me. OP, go that route. Nexy92 comments, go and do one of those asking for prayers announcement in her name. Tell people to pray for her soul and her loss of Christian integrity and decency that occurred the day that she let Satan's greed into her heart and stole the labor of one of Christ's literal children as they toiled in the harsh weather after she promised that child payment. Ask them all to donate to her, because her need is so great that she's willing to sell her good name in God's eyes for a mere pittance of $35. Now, assuming she does go to church, this is a brilliantly petty approach, and I love it so much. And OP's already showed they have the spine to re-unshovel her driveway, so I'm already equally impressed by that factor alone. The next question is if the cops were called, what would happen in that scenario? He's putting snow on my driveway. Yeah, because she said she'd pay my son $35 to shovel it, then stiffed him on it, so I'm putting the snow back. Honestly, probably just become a civil matter at that point, and the cops would just tell him to stop trespassing on our property and to walk away at that point. That would be my general guess, but I don't know. For those of you who might have more information on this, let me know what might actually end up happening in this situation if the cops did get called and involved. Throw array 30,197. Done a 6-stage interview to get into a role, only to meet the most incompetent boomers on planet Earth. Boomer story. Some years ago, after 250 applications, I got an interview for a semi-technical payroll job. It was literally the most insane interview known to man. Cognitive tests, typing speed, personality assessments, and role plays. I eventually got a job and was paired with a 60-plus-year-old woman to show me the ropes. The things I've seen in the first few days were absolutely maddening. Some highlights include 1. Sending protected information via regular email but typing secure in the subject line. I asked, why are you typing that? And she told me it makes it secure. I quizzed it further by asking how, and she replied, no idea, it's supposed to be secure, so I'm writing it. Okay. 2. Another boomer was spending days every week working on 2 screens. You weren't allowed to interrupt her because her work was very important. I shadowed her and discovered what was taking her so long. She was manually typing data from one system into the other. I asked her why she couldn't just copy and paste the data and she would know it was accurate, and it's because it's different systems. Nope, that doesn't matter. Copied and pasted it myself immediately. 3. One of them didn't understand how to make a new folder on the desktop. 4. They would spread malicious gossip about people that was completely made up. Regularly. Blatantly just made up nonsense. 5. No windows were allowed to be opened. In the boiling hot summer because one of the boomers gets cold. Yet she has a blanket around her chair and refuses to wrap it around herself. Anyway, rant over. I could write more, but I'm infuriating myself. It amazes and angers me that overly qualified people are working minimum wage jobs while these dinosaurs take up a seat outright refusing to learn technology newer than 30 years ago. They also have this air of entitlement, as if we should automatically respect them despite them being quite horrible people. Alright, time for some Oz Media certified advice. It's not certified in any way, I just say it's certified, which probably means it actually decreases the value of that certification. But anyways, no matter what age you are, if you're working with technology and you're doing something that feels just remarkably tedious, Google the general scope of what you're doing and see if there's a faster way to do it, like data entry. I need to add all these columns together. Just simply Google Microsoft Excel, quickly add columns together, and you'll start to learn about formulas and shortcuts and ways to quickly do a lot of math at once without needing to just manually go and input data. I can almost promise and guarantee that in 3 decades of us having modern office-based computing utilities like the Microsoft Office suite, if you are doing something tedious, someone at some point has probably created some way to do whatever you're doing a lot faster. And like, trust me, as I age and see technology advance, there's a lot of new things that I have to learn almost every few years because of how quickly technology is rapidly advancing. And there probably will be a time where I'll be in a boat where the way that I use my computer is going to be extremely frustrating to my grandchildren. And if I'm going to be honest, I think the frustrating part with a lot of the ways that boomers use technology is that they're unwilling to learn the new methods. They are so hard set in the ways that they learned 30 plus years ago that they have no interest in learning things that'll make their life easier, and they'll even insult or berate you about it because you're trying to help them. Or they'll just simply find any excuse they can think of for why your method's inferior, like the data doesn't look right when I copy and paste it. I will always have an infinite amount of respect for someone who recognizes that technology has gone the wayside of them, but they want to catch up and they want to learn and they're willing to learn new ways to make their lives easier. I have an infinite amount of respect for that than someone who is so cold set in their ways they would rather just do the most tedious and mind-numbing tasks for hours on end because they just refuse to learn any new methodology, whether it's a shortcut or just simply a drop-down menu, for getting their work done faster. Throw RA 30,197. This is the IT guy from the previous post. My own boomer dad made me homeless because I couldn't get a job and refused to let me be a layabout. Boomer story. I fell into the Boomers Being Fools vibe and shared some of my stories of my workplace. It was quite therapeutic, so I thought I'd share the biggest Boomers Being Fools moment in my life. My dad is a boomer. He worked for the same company since school, and I don't think has ever actually applied for a job. I was 18 and just out of college, having got a basic IT qualification here in the UK. Since the age of 13 to 16, I had a paper round and saved 50% of my money, which really wasn't much. And I also got some money from my grandparents that I was able to increase from some buying and reselling. He didn't believe in pocket money or giving us anything. Not once did he buy us a gift, write a card, or even give us a hug. I was in full-time college and left at 18 with a qualification in IT. I had a health issue that I was on a surgery waitlist for and expected to be able to recover from that at home with my family. Boy, was I wrong. I had genuinely applied for so many jobs and went on around 15 interviews. I never got any of those jobs because I had zero confidence. He approached me one day at 18 and basically said that I wasn't welcome at home and to pack my bags. The reason is that I didn't have a job at 18 and he refused to have me be a layabout. So I left with my bag and never went back. Literally had nowhere to go and wandered the streets for years, couch surfing and getting whatever help I could. I even met him once in the city and he just walked straight past me. After many years of struggle, I managed to get a job by hiding that I was homeless, and that led to me being able to rent a place and so on. My older brother is 40 and still lives at home on a lower salary than me. My dad still refuses to speak to me. In the boomer mind, it was better for me to be homeless, have no job, and be out of the house than simply exist at home in job search, while living comically frugally and not taking a penny from him. At this point, it sounds like you don't even have a dad. It sounds like you just had someone who let you live in your house until you were 18 and then kicked you out. And honestly, at this point in time, the best thing that you can do is just live your life and grow and be better and to be someone that he isn't. And when eventually he comes crawling asking for help, decline, because you don't have a father. He didn't raise you in a way that would ever entitle him to any kind of care or respect or any kind of sympathy when he's older and aging and looking for someone to help take care of him. He made his bed, and he can pick himself up by his bootstraps and find his own way out of it. Live your own life, and be who you want to be. And also, as a common mantra on this channel, family is what you find, not who you're born to. Living Hour 2415. Boomer Aunt just confessed to me that she's been sexting Hugh Jackman. Boomer story. My Boomer Aunt believes she's dating Hugh Jackman, and you guessed it, he needs money so that he can get away from his agent and get his passport back. She told me, like a giddy schoolgirl, that she has a hot man she's been texting and sexting behind her husband's back. She has spent my uncle's money on Hugh Jackman and apparently drained their retirement accounts and ran up credit cards. Don't worry though, Hugh is planning on marrying her once he gets his passport back. It is a little bit sad how often boomers fall for the classic pig butchering scam. We've talked about this previously in the channel. John Oliver has a good segment on it. But like she's draining her husband's retirement accounts and cheating on him and sexting with who she believes to be Hugh Jackman, when chances are it's just some dude in a cubicle with 50 phones on his table and he's doing this to 50 women at once and, you know, is just one cog in a massive scamming operational, sometimes an unwilling cog at that too. Honestly though, the only person I have any sympathy for is OP's uncle, who just had his entire retirement savings account drained by his wife, who's cheating on him and sexting with some person who she thinks is Hugh Jackman, when it's 100% not. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.